What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Magnum West here, and today we're going to be talking about some of the most underrated action figure companies that I can really think of. As always, if there's any that you think I don't mention on here, feel free to drop a comment letting me know, and maybe I'll include in the next video, like this one. And with underrated, I would say there's some that are overhated or maybe don't really deserve the negative, you know, connotation around them. So, without further ado, let's jump into the video. First off, we got old Rebel Tech figures. Now, with the new space, I guess, that Rebel Tech is in, where people seem to really gravitate towards Yamaguchi figures, a lot of people forget how hated old Rebel Tech figures used to be. Now, thanks to Reddit, I didn't want to include the name just in case the user isn't comfortable with it, but here is the pictures that the user provided. I'm not sure which character this is, but this was I believe this is the only Joker that they have out. It's not the reissue version that they did recently. This is the original. Then we have the original release of Deathstroke, Snake, and then an older Snake figure, and then Cable, which all of these are pretty much 1.0s. I'll try to include some more, but then we have the Wolverine, and then we have the Snake, and then this random dude again. But one of the main reasons, and then I'll go ahead and pull it up real quick. Okay, a lot of people attributed their hate back then to this, right? I think this embodies what everyone hated and some still hate about Yamaguchi is the really really stylized look and the big ball joints that most of them have, right? They're definitely not as bad as this. A lot of the newer ones, especially with some of the newer designs that they've been doing in their new engineering, they tend to be able to hide a lot of those ball joints much better, but they're still kind of there, right, for the most part. Except the ones on the knees, they no longer do that. But you can kind of see why people don't like this and would definitely prefer something like this, right? Like, you can definitely see why someone would want this over this, just because this, obviously, the joints are a lot better hidden, and this is a newer version of it, but it looks pretty much the same as the older version. It's just, different paint application that they use in color scheme. But definitely, I mean, even me myself, I prefer this one over this one, but the new 2.0 Yamaguchi definitely beats this out. But yeah, I just wanted to bring this up real quick because a lot of people forget that a lot of people used to hate Yamaguchi, and then until very recently did Yamaguchi kind of get past that kind of turmoil, and then now everybody loves Yamaguchi figures. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Okay, next up we got 1000 toys kind of as a whole, right? I feel like 1000 toys is kind of like if Mezco were to stick to just plastic, but still kind of have a little bit of that Mezco style, if that makes sense. Because a lot of their figures have kind of gimmicks to them or have a lot of cloth goods, right? Like, probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular, 1000 Toys figure that I at least know about is this Hellboy, right? And honestly, I had this guy for pre-order on HobbyLink Japan. I think it was like a grand total of like 130 with shipping and everything. But I ended up canceling my order just because for me personally, it wasn't worth it. But I'm definitely not going to deny that I feel like in today's day and age, a lot of the prices are kind of starting to level out, right? For better or for worse. Like back then, a Yamaguchi, like for example, when I got the Revoltech Carnage, that dude was $80, and he came with literally like an entire tray full of extra accessories for $80, right? Now most Yamaguchi figures, especially on like Big Bad Toy Store and stuff, you're pretty much paying 115 or 130 for any given amazing Yamaguchi figure. So for kind of my theory on this figure pricing people out is not that valid just because every single figure is expensive nowadays. Even that new SH Figure Art Cyclops that's coming out, that guy is also pretty overpriced. He's $100 on pretty much every website that's not an import, and he was $60 on the import websites, which is pretty crazy to think about because it's an SH Figuarts, right? SH Figuarts is kind of known to be that reachable slash affordable import company that everyone can buy from and does a million different IPs, but now they're kind of becoming equally as pricey as some of these higher end figures, right? Now they may just not produce any IPs that you're interested in, but they definitely still produce some really good figures, especially for the Halo guys. I will say that this is one of the reasons why I've never got it is like I think this guy's cool, right? Like I remember my first experience like thinking about genuinely buying a 1000 Toys figure was also the 1000 Toys Hellboy, but here he is. The Carter, the Noble One from Halo Reach. I saw him at Frankensons at Toy Arena, and I was like, God damn, man, this guy looks really freaking cool. And it didn't have a price point on it. And I was like, oh, like I'd be willing to pay like $100 for this. It looks really high quality. Nope. The price point, I think he was like $200 when I went to go ask what the price was, and I was just like, they are smoking the loudest loud imaginable if they think that I'm paying $200 for this, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's a very cool looking figure, but it's definitely not worth that price point for me. But anyways, just wanted to mention 1000 Toys. Maybe you're the biggest 1000 Toys fan and you feel the same, but yeah, I just felt like mentioning them. Okay, now moving forward, kind of with what I believe is probably the most overhated toy brand is McFarlane Toys. Now, I know there's some people out there that are gonna be like, yeah, they are trash, but I ask you, drop a comment and really explain why. When McFarlane is dropping stuff like this Deathstroke, which is pretty much an all new figure from the head down, comes with all these accessories, extra hands and stuff for $30, right? I think it's 30. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure this guy's $30 because that's how much the other collector's editions are. And Hasbro is dropping this. When Hasbro is dropping things like this, it makes this look like a godsend, right? I mean, yes, I get it. Mephisto comes with the chair. He comes with a lot of, extra stuff, right? But what I ask you as a collector and as obviously a fan of action figures because you're watching a video like this is really what are you getting here besides the chair, right? I think the chair is pretty cool. But like what are you getting here that really really justifies this $80 price point? To me, at best, this should be like $40. This Mephisto does not look like anything we've never seen. It looks actually kind of crappy. I really hate the look of this figure from the neck down. I think the faces look really cool, but like from the neck down, this guy just looks pathetic. Like he looks shrimpy. He looks like really lanky and weird looking, and it just does not look good. And you know that he's not gonna have this much shading. Like, come on, let's be real. He's not gonna come with that. And then the chair, like, it doesn't look like anything that crazy, right? It's still gonna be painted or printed probably in that hollow plastic, and it's not gonna have an amazing amount of paint detail on it, right? Could be wrong, and this could be the best Marvel Legends ever released, but I am not expecting a whole lot from this. So when people sit here and try to complain about McFarlane Toys, which his regular releases are $20, and then on that, while we're on that, I was literally about to look this guy up. This guy comes with the same thing. He comes with a little bit of extra hands, right? Give him one extra head, and why is this guy gonna cost $25 and this one is gonna cost 80? Like, try to explain that to me. Like they could make it the same way, cut costs, in certain ways while still giving you what you need to have the character right. But they're not going to do that. So whenever I hear people complain about the collector's editions being like their best figures, but being locked behind a paywall, quote unquote, I always remind them that Hasbro is doing this. I think they're both scummy, and I don't care for either or. Um, Not here to defend either or, but I definitely think that some of the arguments that people have for hating McFarlane are really just ass pulls. That way they can, be like everyone else and hate McFarlane for pretty much no reason. I think McFarlane's catalog is much better than Hasbro's. They've gotten so much characters out, even like the B and C and D listers out in such a much quicker amount of time than Hasbro has. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not that invested into this, and that's one of the main reasons why. Is because McFarlane produces great figures, in my opinion, for the price you're getting, for the price you're paying, and the overall quality of the figures is pretty good. They're also a lot more modular, like they're way easier to mod and make better, kit bash and stuff like that than Marvel Legends, especially with like the new way that they do the torso joint, where it's like kind of like a T joint into there, and you basically got to break it to get it out of there. They're definitely not customizable, and the range is definitely weird. So let me know what you guys think. Are you guys Team McFarlane, Team Hasbro? Do you not care? Let me know down in the comments. But let's go ahead and get to the last company. All right, and last but definitely not least, probably in my opinion, the most underrated toy brand is Joy Toy. I think that Joy Toy has only recently been getting their flowers because of their TMNT line that they're doing and how popular TMNT is. Like how many collectors there is for that. People have just been gravitating to the Joy Toy, line now. And also they're doing other stuff like King of Fighters. But I'm gonna talk about their Warhammer line just because this is the main line that I collect from them. I too have the TMNT figures from them, but I started off with their Warhammer figures. And I'm just gonna say that pound for pound, in my opinion, I think this is the best, one of the best. I would definitely put it top three bang for your buck for what you're getting. Like every single release from Joy Toy is like pretty much the perfect version of whatever character they do, right? Um, Usually it comes with whatever you would need for that character, which, in my opinion, is the most important and really the only thing that matters for a character. It's like if you're gonna make a Spider-Man, it needs to come with whip hands, web crawling hands, and maybe some web effects, preferably bendy wire, and then maybe an unmasked head sculpt, and that's pretty much a perfect Spider-Man. Like really, that's not that hard to do, which Hasbro has a really hard time understanding for some reason. Literally, if they made every Spider-Man figure like that, they could probably count on selling Spider-Mans for the rest of their company's life, right? But whatever, we're not here to talk about them. But these Joy Toy figures are extremely slept on. One of the reasons I know is whenever I post these or photography of this on my Instagram account, they always have a really low like and view count because they're just not that popular, right? I think Warhammer also as an IP itself has only really gained traction recently with the release of Space Marine 2 and then kind of some of their books that they've been doing. The fandom grows more and more, right? This is obviously based off of a tabletop, um, but I buy these Joy Toy figures just because they're so amazing. If you guys haven't watched any of the reviews of Joy Toy on my channel, I highly recommend you do. Not just because they're mine, but because these figures are amazing. Like you can just see here, like I said, I suggest go watch the videos because you really know what I'm talking about. But the amount of unique sculpt work. I'm not talking about all the reusing. They do reuse, but like figures like this are resculpted brand new from head to toe, and they are just covered in detail and paint detail, which obviously a lot of people that buy these figures also buy the miniatures, and usually sometimes you'll see they make these figures just look like artwork, right? Like something that should be put next to the Mona Lisa. But something like this to come this good straight out the box and you don't have to do anything unless you really want to is almost unheard of, right? I've also had my fair share of opinions on Mafex when it comes to paint. Maybe the Mafex figures have really good like sculpt work, right? They also reuse a lot more than this company, at least in my experience. But the paintwork is always lacking for Mafex. It always has like a little tiny bit of a like glossy finish that gives it a little bit of that cheap action figure look. But these figures, I mean, you're talking about different finishes, and I've talked about that before in some of my other videos, where that's insane. That's an insane detail that people often look over. These metallic parts usually have like a nice metallic finish on them, and then everywhere else kind of has like a metal matte, like matte but for metal on the rest of the armor, and it's just insane. I have no affiliation with this company. I don't get paid by them, but I will always give them praises because they have amazing figures and are at a very accessible price point. I mean, you could get your first Joy Toy figure for $20. This figure is amazing. It's gonna almost make every single figure that you have, if you only collect domestics, look like trash in comparison to this. Butterfly joints, thigh swivel, ball joints in the hips, ball joints all around. Everything has a ball joint. Super advanced articulation. I mean, just look at this guy. We're getting kind of in the dangerous territory, right? We're getting into like the $140 range. But I mean, come on, man. Like, look at the amount of detail on this. Like, I've actually been tempted to buy this character personally, but just to show you the accessibility, right? You can literally get your first one. Also done a review on this guy, delivered tomorrow. So that's pretty much it. I don't want to keep going. I know I usually tend to glaze a lot of these figures because I get comments like, God, holy glaze. But I'm just passionate about this stuff. And Joy Toy is like such a underrated beast that it's kind of crazy that they haven't just randomly, gotten a huge surge of popularity and everyone's buying them now. So, let me know what you guys think. Do you think there's some companies that I didn't include? There probably is. I'm thinking of some right now as I'm talking that I didn't include, but let me know what you guys think. Feel free to drop a like, sub. That always helps out the channel, and then also drop a comment. Let's have a conversation down in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You have a great day. Peace.